Good afternoon. How are you? Well, according to Jefferson, we got a pretty good day going here. Temperature is 74 degrees, humidity is 80, and the wind's 6 miles an hour, and I can feel a slight breeze. It's been raining all day, and so when I stopped work, I looked out the window and the sun was shining, and I thought I'd better get the hell out here. So here I am. You probably are familiar with this old quote, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when at first we start to deceive." It is the watchword of this campaign and of those tolerant to say that one can lie as a candidate. I don't believe that, and I think there should be all kinds of retribution, at the very least, not electing people like that. And I think unless we insist on a serious canon of ethics for politicians, so that there's a penalty for choosing to ignore it, then we move on. Oh yes, I do know that probably before the caveman started rolling wheels, people were deceiving each other in hand signals and punches in the face. But that said, there's no reason to accept that. And if a workman came by and said anything, predicted anything, you would want to be assured that it was true and reliable. So we can't be electing people we wouldn't trust to park our cars for us. So now Vance fits this particular case very well, because he has spread a lie, and to the pain and suffering of innocents, of migrants who are here legally declared unlawful, persons welcomed by the Republican governor working with them, and slandered. The people are at dis-ease, not eased, because what's happened is they have been compromised in an election by this guy Vance. Now, it first turned out that Vance claimed that constituents said something and he repeated it on air as if it were true. And then what happened was he went and questioned the people to find out what the truth was, but did nothing to dispel the lies he told. Now, I suppose there are two categories here. Okay, they tell me something, I go out and blurt it irresponsibly. Somebody running for vice president of the United States should be more careful than that. And I don't think that he's smart enough to do the examination himself. And in elections I've been involved in, these things get vetted if you're responsible. But anyhow, so at first he doesn't know and he says it. And then he finds out he's wrong. Okay, it's embarrassing to admit a correction, but that's the right thing to do. And so you do that. And you say a variation of what he has been saying. I thought it was a constituent, I thought it was reliable. Now it turns out that one woman who was concerned about her cat, isn't that ironic, how the animals have become a theme in the Trump campaign. She found the pet in the basement. And it wasn't the neighbors who are from Haiti. And he called them Haitians. I'm not even sure. The ignorance abounds. It's so scary. I say you wouldn't want one of these guys to park your car. You don't want to trust them to speak for the damage they cause by what they say. So what do you have when you have a person who, A, doesn't check it, B, checks it, finds out what he said is untrue, C, continues to say the first thing when maybe he wasn't sure, and then when he's talking to Dana Bash on CNN, he says to her, And her look was amazing. I mean, understandable and terrific when he says, well, you know, we're drawing attention to this. And so it's even good to lie about something that people talk about it. Whoa, stop it. What mind does this guy have? So what do you think we have when somebody's been corrected and they still say this? By the way, this is a sidebar. Walter Scott is responsible for that quote from a poem he wrote, and maybe it'll come to me. The poem's not as good as the statement. That's why I don't remember it. Now, let's examine these false statements. Talk about two peas in a pod. We have Trump telling lies, his vice presidential candidate, who's being schooled in how to lie better, he's telling lies. We would trust these people to put their thumbs on weapons of war, choose judges, choose representatives at the State Department, fire career employees. Really? How does this take a minute to say this is wrong and stupid and shouldn't be done? Now, over the years I've done some martial arts. It's been a long time since I actually competed at anything in college. And then it was judo. But one of the lessons of martial arts is that a lot of people can sustain a single punch. And I'm not talking about really hurting someone. I'm talking about winning a match, for example. But if one is pummeling another with lots of force and speed and so forth, then it disorganizes the strongest opponent, and they can be defeated that way. Okay, so why is that relevant? That is the pattern of Trump and Vance and company. Because Vance and Trump got nothing. They're improvising desperately, sort of like running the clock a little bit and dangling interesting things that have to be reported. They're so outrageous. Filling the space with this crap, hurting people in the bargain. And for the average voter, it should be terrifying that these people could even think to want to be near the West Wing. So they roll out lies. And, you know, one lie, if it was just out there, well, you know, that could be corrected. But what you have instead is a fire hydrant of lies. And this recent one about claiming migrants are eating pets, which is absolutely unsupported by anybody who's been fair and looked into it and talked to the people involved. But what happens is not only do you make it difficult for people to keep track of the lies, but it creates this smudging in the public dialogue. Now, this lie is big because it's so absurd. But the big lie of the campaign has been Trump from the beginning claiming, I was robbed. They took away my victory. I won, and they took it away from me. That's his big lie. Now, he's been saying this forever, and he gets people to swear that it's true. But then he goes on the air, and he's interviewed, and he said that he lost by a whisker. He lost by a whisker. Now, that's not even true. But he had been duping so many dummies who believe that we should correct what happened in the 2020 election when what happened was right and just, lawful and constitutional. So many duped dummies in support of Trump. But we see a movement among independents and Republicans to correct this pain in the body politic caused by lies. It's a cancer in our society, the lies and the actions, so that you can't trust anything, including this kind of fishy attack on the president at his golf course. I mean, I'm sure there are going to be cartoon books about this election if we can get through it and boot his ass out of the politics forever and put him back in jail based on the sentence in the New York case and force him to give up the money that courts have decided that he should pay in penalties for all of his fraud. So we have a populace staggering from the lies, including the big lie that he won the election, but it was stolen from him. When he truly did lose, he says, by a whisker. So if it's a whisker, it's a whole battlefield, because he can't stop. So, as a result of this tactic that we all have to know, because we have to be able to tell our friends and neighbors who are buying this swill that it ain't so. And so we have to tell them, use a journalistic term, we bury the lead. That means you tell the whole story and the most important aspect is at the bottom. Well, here they're telling this big lie about migrants and pets to bury the bigger lie, the more sensational one, the critical one, which is Trump himself has admitted he lost. He lost. And he has called all this pain and suffering, lying about it. It's quite something, isn't it? Now, if we weren't talking about this, what could we be talking about? And there are a number of things that catch my attention. One is how Diddy has been indicted ingloriously today, and on drugs and sex and all sorts of terrible stuff. Another friend of Trump, pictures galore. I'll put up one if I have it handy. Then, nationwide, we're not paying attention to how you carnivores out there are eating, but you're entitled to eat healthy food when you're having meat. And we have these terrible scandals about how they deal with the waste of animals and how they take care of them and how they inject them and so on. And they're closing down a huge meat plant in Virginia because of it. So terrible. I'm not saying this is throughout America, but what I am saying is those who criticize progressives for saying, we like somebody to check the food, check the safety of cars, and so forth, because business does not uniformly feel responsible to do what they claim to be warranting when we get their products, whether it's meat or cars or anything else. And then I have another beef. Being a guy who, studied science and feels strongly about it and its importance and significance, we have these data centers that are eating up water and eating up power, and I'm sure there are better ways to do it. And is this the circus we want, and at what cost down the road? Counties across America allow these data centers to exist because they promise tax money to pay for the education in public school that Republicans don't want at all, when we need that perhaps more than anything. It's like a trade-off of the bad for the good, giving up the good for the bad. America has to win this election. And then it has to reevaluate how a government may serve the people, all the people. How it can be true that all men and women are equal before the law. And then we get better judges. The jobs are not easy. Some judges just don't want to try to practice law because they can't believe that somebody will hire them. It's not an exaggeration. I've had judges tell me how upset they were about not getting clients, so they're happy to be on the bench so that they have a retirement plan. That's it. Planning for your own exit. Exeunt. Why would you think that way? Why wouldn't you want to be in the action and passions of the day, or coexist in a happy celebration of a home life with family, children, grandchildren, and friends? We have these people who have nothing good to say to us, and so they cause fear and hurt. I mentioned that Holly and I, when we went door knocking, there were a couple of Republicans, and nobody was uncivil. But just standing there, listening to what they say, how they were better off, when by the conversation I could tell they were not. And the bias to believe that we hate Trump. That's not my first stop. My first stop is he's bad for government, bad for the country. That we have an opportunity to be great, truly great, not his kind of great, that is for him, and for him to avoid prosecution, among other things. But America can be an image for the world to look at, take heart, and be encouraged to be like us. If you think about it, and you're another nation, do you want to think about the nation as it is now, as what somebody else should emulate? How do we deal with the Middle East? How do we deal with Russia and Zelensky? How do we deal with the environment? Are we really going to go to the moon again? And what is our role? And is that the implicit remedy for some to destroy the only planet we know that can allow us to subsist? Perhaps. So, those are a few of my thoughts today. I don't know what the weather's like tomorrow, but for today, I say goodbye to you from my cathedral of trees. Bye-bye.